Hi friends, this is Celeste from Finger Play Studio. It is March 20th and this is my weekly studio update. Today we're going to talk about using hand-dyed variegated yarns. But before we do that, I wanted to let you know that we have a full calendar of classes, including a 2 at a time sock class, cabled pillow class, some Learn to Knits for people who want to just get started, and German short rows workshop, as well as a macrame class, macrame plant hanger. So you can find all of that online on our website at fingerplaystudio.com. You can find out information by clicking the calendar, and you can sign up right there. If you have questions, feel free to give us a call. So behind me, I'm going to turn my camera a little. You can see part of our fingering weight wall, which is where you will mostly find hand dyes in our studio. We also do carry some other larger yarns, worsted, super bulky, and even DK in hand dyes. So, but beyond using your hand dyes for the obvious sock or shawl, where you're usually only using one skein for socks, or you might use 2 skeins in a shawl that don't need to match up, we're going to talk about how to choose your hand-dyed yarns for bigger projects, because sweaters also look really beautiful in hand dyes, and it is a little bit of a gamble, not a gamble, but you have to really think about what you're buying, because hand dyes don't typically have dye lots. Every skein is unique. Even though dyers work very hard to get consistency, there's always going to be variation. And these are 2 skeins from Hue Loco. These are both Dirty Talk, and you can already see how different they look. When you're choosing your skeins, you'll look at them this way first in their hanks, and then they look different at every process along the way. So once you unwind them, they look different. Once you put them on a ball winder and you wind them into balls, they look different. And I'm going to show you that and how to choose your yarn. Here we have 6 skeins of Hue Loco's Dirty Talk. I know that they all came into the studio at the same time and they were dyed at the same time, but that still doesn't mean they won't have variations between the skeins. So let's say we're going to make a sweater, and on average, these are, I believe, 420 yards. So on average, we would need about 4 skeins to make the sweater. So first thing we're going to do is take them off the shelf, lay them on the table, take a look at them. But this isn't enough information. And so I always recommend that you open up the skeins and take a look at them together if you're doing a big project. Now, make sure that you always ask permission, no matter what yarn shop you're in. Some people have different ideas. They may not want you to open up the skeins, and maybe in our case, we just might want to help you so that the ball band doesn't get broken. So I am going to take a minute. I'm going to put down the camera and open up these skeins. Okay, this is the 6 skeins of Hue Loco's Dirty Talk, and I just wanted to mention that most hand dyers do keep the knitter in mind when they are dyeing, and they try to be as consistent as possible and very precise in their dyeing, but we're people and there's still going to be some variation. So just know that you need to be careful and that the dyer does their best. So if we look at these skeins together, they're all kind of blending together right now, but I can see these really big dark spots in here. But I wouldn't worry too much about that because it's going to look even different when it's knitted up. What we're looking for is 4 skeins that go together and 2 that we can eliminate. So because I only see really big dark spots in these 2, I'm going to just move them around. So, and maybe that is just 1 skein. It is. Moving them around will help too. Sorry, I'm couldn't get my camera stand to get up high enough to get all these skeins in, so I'm sorry if this is quite shaky video. But that is kind of, I can see this one looks a little bit dark as well. I'm going to move it up. Seems to go nicely with that other skein. But I'm looking for 4 that work really well together. And it is a bit of a judgment call. I see that this skein here has quite a bit of orange and black together. A little bit more orange than some of the other skeins. This skein, I only see a little orange in there. Not so much orange in these skeins until we get down here, but it's not as close to the black, so it doesn't look so dark. So pretty clearly to me, these top 2 skeins are a little blacker. They're beautiful, but these 4 bottom ones might work better together. So I'm going to choose those 4 and eliminate these 2. And now, because I'm going to make a sweater, theoretically, I want to look at these skeins individually and see how they might go together. This is also the same process that you would use if you were doing a fade. A lot of what we're going to talk about today goes along with fading as well. So again, I'm going to move them around. Let's see. This one has a bit more gray in it. This one's a little, these 2 are really close together, I think. They have a little bit more light. And this is a little bit more gray, but honestly, if I was going to do a sweater, I wouldn't want all the gray pulling together either. So I might break them up and blend them a little more by even possibly swapping out a few. You might have different ideas. The point of this is that you want to take this time now before you start knitting to really look at your skeins. And then decide, okay, what order do I want to do these in? Because that's going to be important when you start knitting. So I might do this one as 1 and and I'd wind it and then put a tag on it to say that this is number 1 skein. Then I would wind this one and put a tag on it, number 2, and then so on. And if you need us to label them, if you have them wound when you're in the store, we're happy to do that for you. And so then I know when I start working with them, which one I'm going to start with and which one I move to next, because they will not get in order when they're in your project bag and you won't remember what's what. We also know that the balls are going to look different even from when the skein was unwound. So here is a project that I'm working on, and this is the colorway from Less Traveled. And then I chose 2 balls that I thought would match pretty well together. But you can see this one is a little bit more saturated, I guess, than this one. So even once they're wound, they look completely different than they did when they were laid out on the table, which I had them laid out before I chose them against the others. And they look very different than how they looked in the skein. I know that, or in the hank, I know that often if you've just used mostly solid colors before, it can be a little daunting to move to the variegated yarns, even though they're beautiful. And maybe you have just been sticking to one skein projects, but yeah, I hope this encourages you to break out. I want to show you, this is a sweater you've probably seen me wear in the store, and this I made a long time ago. It's not a highly variegated yarn, it's a tonal, but you can see the differences in it. And I'm going to talk to you a bit about blending, which I did not do in this project. I was a little, this is a very old piece. I was a little unaware and a little scared. So I didn't do it, and I can tell the results. You can see the background color. This is one skein. Here's another skein, and here's another skein. Now, this was not too bad because where this line hits, which is the most dramatic line, is under my bust line, so you don't exactly see it. You're all going to see it when you come into the store, and I wear it now because I've pointed it out, but I don't let it bother me too much on this project because it's not highly variegated. There's a line, but not too bad. So now the next thing we're going to talk about is alternating your skeins. Okay, so once you have identified your skeins, you've decided which one you're going to start with first and second and so on, and you've labeled them and you start knitting, what's your technique? I have this piece here that I've started. It's attached to this ball. I showed you the yarn a bit ago. This is my second ball. And I'm not going to start alternating skeins immediately. So an alternating skeins means you're knitting with one color for one row or one round, and then you're knitting with the second color for the next round. If you're knitting back and forth, you will knit out and back with one, and then you'll pick up the next ball and knit out and back with that one. This is the technique that also works for fading colors. So instead of starting immediately alternating your balls, you're going to pick one to start with, and you're going to knit with that till it is about, I like to do about a third of the way through the ball, and then I introduce the next one and I start alternating that way. That way the colors blend and fade together, and also you're not going to run out of both of these at the same time and then have to pick up a third skein and have that line, or even a third and fourth skein. If you do that, you're still going to get the line where you changed color. But if you start with one, knit 1/3 to 1/2 the way through it, pick up your next color, introduce that, and alternate your skeins until one of those runs out. It's going to be your first color. Then you add your third one in, and you alternate those skeins until your second one runs out. Then you add your fourth color in, and you alternate those skeins. Eventually, at the end of your project, you're going to end it with your fourth skein. But it's not going to be these dramatic lines that go across your garment. The other reason you want to alternate your skeins is so that you don't get colors pulling together. And that's where your colors kind of match up and you get big blotches of color. It's hard to look at, it's distracting, it's not very attractive, and the eye is always drawn right to it when someone sees your garment. So, and people often will say, oh, does that skein have short colors or long colors? And that's not really the issue. The issue is where it ends up in your knitting, and that can vary for everyone. But if you're alternating your skeins, then those colors are not going to match up so much. You're going to have some variation in there, so it will get broken up and you won't see the pooling. So anytime you're using hand-dyed yarns, it is a good idea to alternate your skeins, even if they are tonals and they look very similar. I know the dyers, again, they do a great job in matching, but maybe you're buying colors from 2 different orders that we've had, or just whatever. It's a good idea. As you saw in my sweater, those were the same colors. I just didn't realize how different they were. So take some time, look at your yarns before you start your project, and you will have greater success. Okay, so that is a bit about choosing your hand-dyed yarns. And before I go today, I wanted to mention that if you would like to add to our little craft library. Some of the things that you can put in there, I've gone through. I had all these projects from my kids that were half done, unopened pieces, rainbow loom, and they've grown out of them now, and I've been able to clear those out. They've gone to happy homes, but those are the kinds of things that you can put in. It doesn't just need to be yarn or crochet, knitting related. You can put anything in there that is a craft that you think someone will get pleasure out of. Those rainbow looms, I had a ton of them, and I packaged them all up, and they have made some kids pretty happy. So, and I also wanted to thank you for those who made our encouragement cookies. We have gone through nearly all of them. It's Monday morning, I'm looking out there, I think I see 2. And I just wanted to thank you for doing that. It's really made it it's fun to see people enjoy them and know that they've been taken. So thanks so much for participating, and we hope to see you soon and have a fun week. Bye.